What if I told you there's a house that doesn't just haunt you, it rewrites your life over and over again until you forget you ever lived anywhere else? This isn't just a ghost story, it's a trap, and once you're inside, the house decides who you are and when your story ends. My name is Kate Holloway, and I don't know how much time I have before I forget everything. If you're watching this, if this somehow reaches anyone, please, I beg you, don't go to that house. Don't rent it, don't even look for it. It doesn't want to be found, but sometimes, it chooses you. It started 6 months ago, when my fiancé Tom and I moved out of the city, after losing our unborn daughter in a late-term miscarriage. We were broken physically, emotionally, spiritually. The apartment held too many memories, too many ghosts. We needed a reset, a fresh start, somewhere quiet. We found it in a listing with no pictures, just an address, a brief description, and the words secluded, spacious, available immediately. The rent was obscenely cheap, like, suspiciously cheap, but we didn't care. It was in a small mountain town in upstate New York called Emberbrook. Neither of us had ever heard of it. We packed everything we owned into a U-Haul and made the 6-hour drive in early October. Emberbrook was strange. Not in a creepy horror town kind of way, more like off, the kind of place where time felt slower, where people smiled at you like they knew something you didn't. There were no chain stores, just mom and pop shops with fading signs and dust in the windows. When we stopped for coffee, the cashier asked where we were headed. I told her the address. Her smile vanished. "Oh," she said, slowly, "that place." She didn't say anything else, and I didn't press her. I just thought, small town gossip, superstitions, old stories. Every town has a spooky house. We weren't scared, we were just tired. When we pulled up to the house, I actually laughed. It was beautiful. 2 stories, Victorian style, white paint with black shutters, a wraparound porch with a swing that creaked gently in the wind. The yard was a little overgrown, but manageable. Trees surrounded the property on all sides like guardians. It was exactly what we needed. We moved in that same day. No landlords, no paperwork, just a key left under the mat. I should have found that weird. I should have asked more questions, but I was too busy imagining a life we could rebuild. The first night was quiet. Too quiet. No sounds of wildlife, no rustling of leaves, just stillness. We chalked it up to exhaustion and slept like the dead. The next few days passed peacefully. We unpacked, cooked meals, walked the property. There was a sense of peace I hadn't felt in months. Even Tom smiled again. Then the little things started. The front door would be unlocked in the morning, even though we always locked it. The bathroom mirror would fog up with the words, "Don't forget me," as if someone had written it with their finger, but we'd never seen it appear in real time. At first, we blamed the humidity. Then, maybe one of us was playing a sick joke, but it kept happening, and it wasn't just the mirror. One morning, I opened the fridge and found a carton of eggs, already cracked and empty, arranged in a perfect circle on the shelf. Another day, Tom found handprints on the inside of the bedroom window, child-sized. We told ourselves it was our minds playing tricks, trauma, stress, residual grief. We clung to logic because the alternative was too terrifying. But the house didn't care what we believed. It got worse at night. Sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and hear footsteps in the hallway, slow, dragging steps, like someone was limping. When I checked, the hallway would be empty, but the smell of something rotten would linger in the air, like soil or meat left out in the sun. Other nights, I'd see a light under the basement door, even though we never went down there. It was too cold, and the stairs creaked like they were ready to snap. One night, Tom decided to check. He grabbed a flashlight and went down while I waited at the top. He came back 5 minutes later, pale and shaking. "There's nothing down there," he said, but I heard a voice, a girl. She was crying. He wouldn't go back after that. The turning point came 2 weeks later. We decided to drive into town to get supplies. We were gone for maybe an hour. But when we came back, the house was gone. I don't mean it had burned down or been moved. I mean, the road ended in a field. No house, no trees, No sign that anything had ever been there, just grass and silence. We thought we were lost. GPS wouldn't load. Cell service vanished. We drove back and forth for an hour before finally stopping at a gas station on the edge of town. The attendant looked confused when we gave him the address. "There's nothing there," he said. "Hasn't been for years." We drove back one more time and the house was there again. Standing just as we'd left it. Porch swing moving. Lights on. I felt sick. Tom didn't speak the rest of the night. Now, every time we leave, even for a moment, we come back to find something different. Sometimes the house is there, sometimes it's not, sometimes the inside is wrong. The furniture will be rearranged, the clocks will be spinning. One time, I found Tom asleep in the basement, curled up next to a wooden crib we didn't own. And last night, I found my old ultrasound photo on the kitchen table, the one I burned after the miscarriage. It was whole, unburned, and on the back, in shaky handwriting, it said, "She remembers you. Do you remember her?" That's when I knew, this house isn't haunted. It's alive. And it's trying to make us forget who we are, and remember who it wants us to be. This story seems to be getting scarier, doesn't it? If you want more stories like this, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. This helps create even more scary for you. After I found the ultrasound photo, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just sat in the living room, staring at it, trying to breathe. That picture had been gone. I watched it burn. I needed it to be gone, but now, it looked like it had never been touched. The corners were smooth, the ink hadn't faded, and the handwriting on the back, it wasn't mine, it wasn't Tom's either. That night, he came downstairs around 4 a.m., barefoot and shivering. His shirt was inside out. He looked at me like I was a stranger. "I think I talked to her," he whispered. "To who?" I asked, my voice barely above a breath. He blinked like he was still dreaming. "The girl, our daughter." The next few days blurred. Time became unreliable. We would eat breakfast and suddenly it would be evening. We'd lie down for a nap and wake up 12 hours later, disoriented and aching. Some days we'd remember conversations we never had, or forget entire ones we had. Tom started writing things down in a notebook, so we don't lose track, he said. I started doing it too, just small things: what we ate, what time we woke up, if we saw or heard anything strange. That notebook became our lifeline, the only proof that we weren't losing our minds. But even that didn't last long. One morning, the pages were blank. Not torn out, not smudged, just blank, as if the ink had been erased from existence. Even our names were gone. That's when I realized the house wasn't just shifting reality, it was rewriting it. One afternoon, I looked out the upstairs window and saw a woman in the yard. She was facing the woods, long black hair, a white nightgown that fluttered even though there was no wind. I called for Tom, but by the time he got upstairs, she was gone. "I believe you," he said, and I knew he meant it. That night, I dreamed of her. She stood at the foot of our bed, her hands dripping with water. Her eyes were pitch black, not just the pupils, the entire eye. And when she opened her mouth, I expected a scream. But what came out was worse. "You left her behind," she whispered. "Now you'll take her place." I woke up gasping. The bed sheets were soaked. Not with sweat, with water. The next day, we tried to leave. We packed 2 bags, grabbed the keys, and walked out the front door. But the second we stepped off the porch, the air changed. It was thicker, heavier, like breathing through wet cloth. We followed the gravel road to where it met the highway, but there was no highway. Just more trees, an endless forest, surrounding us like a wall. The farther we walked, the more the world twisted. The trees began to bend toward us. The shadows moved too fast. Birds flew backward. And then the fog came, thick and white, swallowing everything. I could barely see Tom in front of me. We held hands and kept moving until we saw a light ahead. I thought it was a car. It wasn't. It was the house, right there in the middle of the woods, standing tall and still, waiting for us like it never let us go. We stopped trying after that. Tom stopped talking as much. He'd stare out the window for hours, watching something I couldn't see. I'd hear him whispering at night, but when I asked who he was talking to, he'd just smile and say, "She's almost ready." I didn't know who she was. Or maybe I did. On the third Thursday, I think, I found a door in the hallway we'd never noticed before. It wasn't there when we moved in. It didn't match the others. This one was smaller, narrow, like it was meant for a child. Its knob was made of bone. I swear it pulsed when I touched it. It led to a staircase. Not down, but up, higher than the second floor, higher than the roof. I climbed, step by step. As the walls closed in tighter with every step, the air smelled of wet earth and something sweet like rotting fruit. At the top was a single room, circular, with no windows, just a crib in the center, and a mobile hanging above it. But it wasn't spinning, it was twitching, jerking like something was pulling it in unnatural directions. I looked inside the crib. There was a doll, old, hand-stitched, with black button eyes and red thread for a smile. Its chest rose and fell, breathing. I stumbled back, heart racing, and the door slammed shut behind me. I screamed for Tom. I don't know how long I was in there, hours, maybe days. No light, no sound, no air, just the creaking of the mobile and the soft, steady breathing of the thing in the crib. Eventually, the door opened on its own. Tom was standing there. "I told you not to go in," he said calmly. "You're not ready." His eyes were different, wider, deeper, like something had moved in behind them. That night, I packed a bag and tried to escape on my own. I left the house on foot, avoiding the road, cutting through the woods. I walked until my legs burned, until my lungs ached, until my body gave out. I collapsed under a tree and passed out. When I woke up, I was back in bed, still dressed, still holding the bag, and on my pillow was the doll from the crib, its button eyes staring right at me. Tom doesn't sleep anymore. He just sits in the rocking chair in the nursery. Yes, we have a nursery now, somehow humming a lullaby I don't recognize. I've stopped asking questions, because every answer I find only leads to more horror, more truth I'm not ready to face. But something is coming, I can feel it, and I think the house is getting impatient. I think the house is learning, not just watching us, not just playing games, learning. The nursery wasn't there when we moved in, but now it's fully furnished, pink wallpaper, stuffed animals, a mobile shaped like crescent moons. There's even a rocking horse. Sometimes it rocks on its own. The creepiest part? Everything in that room matches the things I bookmarked on Pinterest when I was pregnant. The exact crib, the same color palette, the same hand-sewn quilt my mother made for me when I was a baby, one I hadn't seen in over 20 years. That's not a coincidence. It's her room. But we never told the house her name. We never spoke it out loud. Yet now, it's written on the wall above the crib in soft pink cursive. Lila. I confronted Tom that night, or at least I tried to. He was sitting in the nursery, rocking slowly, staring at the crib. "Tom," I said, "this isn't real. None of this is real. We need to go." He didn't even look at me. "She's not ready yet," he whispered. Then he smiled. "She's still remembering us." I stepped closer. Who was remembering us? He turned to me, but it wasn't him behind those eyes. "Lila," he said, tilting his head. "She's almost here." I don't know how much time passed after that. The clocks stopped working. My phone won't charge anymore. There are no windows in the nursery now, just walls that breathe if you stand close enough. I tried to stay out of that room, but the house keeps pulling me back. Doors open by themselves. Lights flicker to lead me there. Sometimes, I hear crying from the baby monitor even though I haven't turned it on. But the worst part? Last night, I picked up the monitor, and the screen came on. It showed the inside of the crib, and something was moving under the blanket. I ran. I locked myself in the bathroom, shaking, clutching the monitor like it was a bomb. The crying continued, soft and wet, like something trying to be a baby. When it stopped, the house went silent, like it was listening. That silence was worse than any scream. I stared at my reflection, trying to ground myself, but something was wrong. It wasn't copying me. When I tilted my head, it didn't move. When I stepped back, it smiled. And then it raised its hand and began writing on the foggy mirror with a finger made of bone. She remembers. Why don't you? I ran to the attic. It's the only place in the house that hasn't changed. Still dusty, still untouched. Boxes full of junk from previous tenants or victims, maybe. Old clothes, journals, photo albums. That's where I found it. A leather-bound diary, brittle with age. Inside were entries from someone named Mara Holloway. My last name. She wrote about moving in with her husband, about how the house felt like a second chance, about how they were expecting a daughter named Lila. Entry after entry described the same experiences: the fog, the disappearances, the voices, the mirror. Until one day, the entries stopped. But on the last page, written in smeared ink, were the words, "The house brings us back again and again. We forget, but it remembers. It always remembers." I dropped the book like it burned me. Because in the back, tucked between the pages, was a photograph. It was me, standing in front of the house, pregnant, smiling, holding Tom's hand. Only, I don't remember that photo being taken. And Tom was wearing different clothes. His hair was shorter. We looked younger. Like it was from years ago. I confronted him again. I shoved the picture in his face, screamed, cried, demanded answers. He just looked at me and said, "You'll understand soon, when she arrives." Then he walked into the nursery and shut the door. I heard the mobile spinning, and something giggling. That night, I tried to destroy the house. I dumped gasoline down the hallways, in the kitchen, the living room, the nursery. I struck a match and threw it down. The flame caught fast, faster than it should have. But then the walls breathed in, and the fire went out. All of it, gone in seconds. Then the house groaned a deep, guttural sound from the foundation, like it was angry. And then the walls bled. Thick, black ichor ran from the ceilings. It smelled like oil and rotten iron. The lights burst one by one, and I collapsed to the floor, screaming. When I woke up, I was in bed, Tom beside me, the nursery door open, a lullaby playing softly. This morning, I found something new on the wall in the nursery, etched into the paint with fingernails. A countdown. 3 days. And under it, in that same shaky handwriting, "Then you'll remember everything." I think we've been here before. Maybe 100 times. Maybe more. The house isn't just haunted. It feeds on memory, on grief, on loops. It wants us to forget who we were, so it can make us into something new, something it controls. But I'm starting to remember now. I remember waking up in the woods as a child. I remember the house standing in the clearing, calling to me. I remember a woman's voice singing. And I remember a name. Not Lila. Mara. My name isn't Kate. It's Mara. And I never left this house. I don't know what's going to happen in 3 days, but I think it's going to be her birthday, and I think she wants her parents to be there. Forever. Day 3. The final day. The countdown on the nursery wall now reads 0. At midnight, the clock in the hallway chimed once, not 12 times, just once, and then the house exhaled. I don't know how else to describe it. The walls pulsed, the air turned thick, warm, almost welcoming. But it wasn't a welcome for us. It was for her. Tom hasn't spoken since yesterday. He just stands in the nursery now, swaying slowly, whispering words I can't understand. His eyes are vacant. I've tried shaking him, screaming in his face, even slapping him. Nothing works. He just smiles. The house has taken him. And I'm next. I know that now. But before it happens, before it finishes whatever this cycle is, I need to write this down. Someone needs to remember. Someone needs to know what this house does. Because if I'm right, if the diary, the photos, the dreams are all real, then we're not the first ones this has happened to. And we won't be the last. Last night, I saw her again. Not in a dream, this time in the hallway. She was standing there, barefoot, in her white nightgown, long black hair covering her face, a little taller than a toddler. Her skin was gray, cracked like porcelain, and her eyes were wide, black, and full of teeth. She smiled and reached for me. "Mommy," she said, her voice like 1,000 whispers layered over a scream. I ran, but every hallway led back to her. No matter how many doors I slammed, no matter how far I ran, she was always at the end, waiting. The house wanted me to see her, to accept her. At 3:33 a.m., I finally gave up. I walked into the nursery. The mobile above the crib spun so fast it hummed like a turbine. The rocking horse bucked on its own. The wallpaper peeled back in long strips, revealing old bones stuffed behind the walls. Tom was kneeling in the corner, humming the lullaby. And Lila was in the crib, alive, breathing, watching me with those button black eyes. She sat up and pointed to the chair beside her. "Sit," she said. So I did. She told me everything. Not with words, not exactly. It was more like the memories poured into me, all at once, overwhelming, suffocating. I saw myself holding her as a baby, laughing in this same nursery. I saw Tom rocking her to sleep. I saw her birthday cake, one candle, pink frosting, then fire, screams, smoke, flames licking the ceiling as I screamed her name, as I tried to get to her crib. But it was too late. The house burned down. Only, it didn't. Not really. It rebuilt itself. And it brought us back. Again. And again. And again. It doesn't trap people the way you'd think. It rewinds them. It makes them forget the pain, the guilt, the truth. It keeps repeating the trauma like a ritual, feeding off it, feeding off us. We're ghosts pretending to be people, living the same nightmare in different bodies. Sometimes I'm Mara, sometimes I'm Kate, sometimes Tom is someone else. But the house is always the same. And Lila? She's not just a ghost. She's become part of it. At dawn, she crawled out of the crib and wrapped her arms around my neck. "Are you ready now?" she asked. And I was, because the truth was easier than the madness. The house didn't make me stay. Guilt did. Love did. A twisted, shattered love that couldn't let go. I held her tight and whispered, "I'm sorry." She smiled. "Then let's blow out the candles." The room went dark. Candlelight flickered in the hallway, dozens of them, stretching all the way down the stairs. The scent of frosting and smoke filled the air. Tom led the way, still silent, still smiling. We followed him into the kitchen. There it was. A cake. Pink frosting, one candle. "Make a wish," Lila said. And I did. I wished we could finally be free. I leaned down, blew out the candle, and everything went black. I woke up this morning in a hospital bed. Real light through real windows. Real nurses and real beeping machines. They told me I was found unconscious on the side of the road, clutching a burned photo of a child. They said the house at the end of Hollow Creek Road had been abandoned for decades, burned down in 1997. No one had lived there since. They told me there were no bodies found in the rubble, just a melted crib. And a doll, with button black eyes. Tom didn't make it. They said he was never found. They think I wandered into the woods during a breakdown. That everything I remember was imagined. But I know better. I can still hear her lullaby when I close my eyes. And sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I see a shadow standing just behind me, a little girl with cracked porcelain skin and a smile full of teeth. She's waiting, not for me, but for you. Because houses like this don't just die. They sleep. And someday soon, they'll wake up again. And they'll be hungry. Don't forget to like, comment your thoughts on this terrifying story, and subscribe for more spine-chilling horror tales.